Hi, and welcome to Quilting with Lori. My name is Lori Dickman, and today I'm going to be continuing through my series on how to use your scrap stash as you make the quilt blocks that are in these quilt patterns in my Speedy Solutions Patterns book. And for those of you who are new to my channel, I have been working through this series for the last number of weeks, sharing with you step by step how to make the blocks that are included in all of the quilts in this patterns book. This book is part of a series. I have a set here. This is my techniques book. This is the patterns book. The techniques book teaches you step by step how to cut, sort, organize, and store your scrap stash so that you can actually use it to make some beautiful quilts. And there are 5 patterns, scrappy patterns in this book. And then in the patterns book, you're using the techniques from this book to actually create these patterns. And there are 12 additional patterns here. So between the 2 books, you get 17 different patterns plus all of the techniques. There's also a video that corresponds to this techniques book, and I'm going to link that below. I also have a playlist of 52 different scrappy blocks where I teach you how to pull scraps from your stash to make all of these beautiful blocks with quilt ideas for you. So I'll link that playlist below. And then of course I'll link the playlist that I'm currently working on, and that is how to use your scrap stash to make beautiful scrappy patterns. So the quilt I'm going to be sharing with you today is my Stars and Stripes quilt. It is a great quilt, a wonderful patriotic quilt that you can hang during all of those patriotic holidays throughout the year. You can put it in your foyer, hang it on your front porch, maybe use it drape it over a table or the back of the couch. There's so many ways that you can use it, and it's such a simple quilt pattern to make. This pattern involves the Ohio Star block, and I'm going to show you in a second here on my tabletop how to put that block together. And then also there are 6 of the Ohio Star blocks, and there's a total of 14 of these huge half square triangles, which are so easy to make. And of course I have been teaching the last few video tutorials. You've been hearing about how to use your scraps to create wonderful half square triangles, fast and easy ways to do that. And so this is another one where we're using half square triangles in our beautiful quilt pattern. So in my book, this is the pattern itself. I'm going to walk you through how to make these blocks. And then when I'm done at the end of the video, I am going to give you some close-ups of how I actually quilted these blocks. And hopefully that will give you some ideas on how you can quilt your quilt either on your domestic sewing machine or on your long arm. So here is the pattern for it in the book, and this is the Ohio Star. It's really a variation of the Ohio Star. I just shorten it to Ohio Star, but it is a variation of it. Really simple block to make, and we're using our Speedy Solutions scrap stash to actually create this block. So this is what we're going to need for the Ohio Star. You're simply going to need one 5-inch or 5.5-inch square for the center. You're going to need 4 3.5-inch blues, and I've actually got that over here. So I have 4 3.5-inch squares that are of the blue shades. I have 1 of the 5.5-inch squares. You need 2 of the 4.5-inch lights, and I have those right here. So we have 5.5, these are 3.5, these are 4.5, and here are 4 of the 3-inch lights. And so what we're going to do to put this block together, the light 3-inch squares are the outside corners. The 1 5.5-inch red is obviously in the center. And then we're going to take these blues and lights, and we're going to actually cut them on the diagonal. They were squares, we're cutting them on the diagonal to use them in this block. Let me show you how that's done. So I do want to point out, for each of the Ohio Star blocks, this is what you need. So depending on how large you're going to make your quilt, multiply this by the number of blocks. For my wall quilt, I made 6 of these, so I'd need to multiply that by 6. So here is what we have. The small white squares or light squares and this dark red one, they're going to be used as squares. But these blue and these light squares are going to be used as triangles. So they're simply going to be cut on the diagonal, as you see here. And then we're going to be able to put our block together using these pieces. All right, we'll start with the large block in the center. We'll place
these lights out here in the corner. It's hard to see them because it's on a white mat. But then what we're going to simply do is take these larger triangles from the light colored squares. And what I would recommend when you're creating your quilt, I would make this real scrappy. Since I'm just making one block here, it's going to have the same fabrics in 2 locations. But if I were you, I would make it really scrappy as you're cutting all of your blocks. You can mix and match everything. Now you're going to take all of your blues, and you can do one of 2 things. You can either make it matchy-matchy like that if you choose. Some people prefer to have more of a matchy-matchy look to their scrappy quilts, and that's fine. But here I am taking all of these smaller triangles, and they're going to make the flying geese units, and there will be the Ohio Star block. So what you're simply going to do, let me lay this on top here. So there is your base of your flying geese unit. You're going to take this smaller triangle, you're going to line it up straight on the bottom there and over here, and you're going to start at the top and sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance right there. You will press it open, and then you're going to lay this one on top of that, again 1/4 inch seam allowance, press it open, and you'll have your flying geese unit. I believe in the instructions tell you, I think you need to square these up to 3.5 inches by 6.5 inches. And that is how you are going to create those little flying geese units for all of your Ohio Stars. When I am making my scrappy blocks, I like to do it all in assembly line. So what I would do is have all 6 of the parts and pieces for all 6 blocks ready to go, and then I could make it as scrappy as I want. Let's see how this looks. I don't know, I think it's just much more fun to see it completely scrappy. So it's totally up to you. You do what you want to. This is your quilt, but I do love scrappy quilts. And then, of course, once you have your flying geese units constructed, then you're simply going to sew, this will be a row, this will be a row, this will be a row, so it's 3 rows, and then you'll attach them together. And you have your block then squared up to 12.5 inches. That concludes your variation of the Ohio Star block. So that one will be done. Now let's take a look at the large, I call it a ginormous, half square triangle that we're going to be creating. For the half square triangle, you're going to pull some really large 11.5 inch squares from your stash. And I've pulled a light and a blue, and I've also pulled some lights and reds for this quilt. And you'll simply match them up right sides together, draw a diagonal line. I have pinned them so that I can get the block up to my sewing machine and it doesn't move around. But once you've got them right sides together, you're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance on both sides of this drawn line. Then, and let's pretend we've just done that here. Actually, we have. So there it is. This is the red with the light. So that has just been sewn, and now I cut it on the drawn line, and you end up with 2 of these really large half square triangle units. So it's a great way to make half square triangles. It's very quick and fast. And you're going to need a total of, I believe it's 14 of these and 6 of the Ohio Star blocks for this quilt. So here is the quilt in the book. You'll be making 6 of these. You're going to make 4 that are a dark blue and light, and you're going to make 10 that are red and white, and those are the large half square triangle units. And you'll put them together like this, or you can make them, as scrappy as you want. They don't have to be laid out in this fashion, however you choose to do that. But the pattern itself gives you all the directions on how to make your flying geese units, how to sew the rows together, and how to create those half square triangles. Now let's take a moment and go to a close-up of the quilt itself so you can see how I've quilted some of this, and hopefully that will give you some ideas on how you can quilt your own quilt. All right, so here is the quilt itself. I'll try and keep my shadow out of it, but
We do have the lights behind us, so you might see some of the shadow. Here is some feather quilting. Feather quilting is always really fun. It's a great opportunity on these large half square triangles to practice your feather quilting. And I encourage you to do that. Have fun creating some wonderful feathers on your quilt. And then let's go over here to the blocks themselves. And I did some fun little swirly scallops in the center. I did the same thing out here. I did some kind of feathers in the center there on those triangles. So that is simple quilting, nothing to it, just some very simple quilting that I think you might enjoy. So hopefully you'll try that on your own and have fun creating this wonderful Stars and Stripes quilt for your patriotic holidays at your home. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I really appreciate your watching. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you so much for checking us out here. If you do like the content that I provide, please don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. I love to read comments from my viewers. So until next time, happy quilting.